Hi everybody, Owen here, and this week's training has to do with the person who dominates the group. And when I say dominates, what I'm thinking of in particular is maybe you have some social time in your live group and one person's always talking. And or maybe you're having discussion and one person always speaks up first and other people don't get to share. Or maybe it's prayer time and you've got that one person who has 5 times as many prayer requests as everybody else. Not that that's bad. It's good to pray, but it's a lot more than everybody else. Um, what do we do when someone like that is in our group? So the first thing I want to cover is that this isn't always a bad thing. Some people are auditory learners. I'm an auditory learner. What that means is that I learn by hearing, and then I will tell you, I will process out loud. And so some of us are verbal processors. Those types of folks naturally talk a little bit more, and that's okay. But sometimes it does get out of hand. And so when it does get out of hand and you see that other people's participation or ownership in the group is starting to suffer, that it's not actually being beneficial for other people, that this person is talking so much, then here's a couple things to think about. The 3 early steps, and then finally, the talk. So the 3 early steps, one is to be assertive. You can do this proactively by telling everyone in the group at the start of the conversations that, hey, it's really important to make sure everybody speaks. So as we talk tonight, feel free to chime in, but also feel free to lay back a little bit if you need to so that other folks can chime in too. Just saying that and proactively kind of sets a standard, lets people know what's expected, and that might help someone who would naturally talk a lot stop and say, yeah, I should let these other people speak up too. So that's one option. Another thing you can do is manage eye contact. Usually someone who likes to talk a lot will sit directly across from the person who is moderating the discussion, and it will be very hard not to look that person in the eyes as you talk. My suggestion is this: sit next to that person instead of sitting across from them. Sit in a position that you're not naturally looking them in the eye a lot. And what will happen is, because they don't have that focus from you as the leader, they probably won't talk as much. A third option is simply managing silence, and that means teaching your group a little bit that sometimes quiet is okay, and saying, hey, sometimes it's okay to stop for 10 seconds if we need to think about a question, and that's all right. Sometimes people talk a lot because they don't do well with silence. Sometimes they talk a lot because they got to jump in as soon as something's quiet and keep the conversation rolling. And so kind of teaching the group as you go that, hey, a little bit of quiet here, a little bit of quiet there is okay. You ask a question, there's an awkward silence, you can say, that's all right, let's take a few more seconds. And people will understand, oh, I shouldn't just jump in, I should let other people think about it too. So managing silence. Those are the 3 things you can try. You can be assertive, you can manage eye contact, you can manage the silence. But sometimes you just got to have the talk. And when you have the talk, you've got to remember, and by the talk I mean actually sitting down and speaking with the person and saying, okay, look, this is way too much. We've got to stop. You've got to stop talking so much. Having the conversation that way might not be as productive. Remember in those situations that you always want to value the other person. So whatever you have to say that could sound critical, make sure that it's bookended on either side with positive statements about that person. Hey, I really appreciate what you're doing in the group. At this point, I think you're talking so much that other people are having a hard time getting their input. So while I appreciate your input, I'm wondering if you could just lay back just a little bit. Another thing you can do is make sure while you're having that conversation that your value is not at risk. In other words, don't get defensive. It's okay. It's not about you. And I say that because it's our instinct to make it about us. It's our instinct to think, well, if I have a talk with somebody, they're just going to attack me. And honestly, it's not about us, so we can let that go and be okay with it. And then finally, always ask and see if there's another side of the story, but be firm that when you're having the talk, be firm that you know that you are the leader, you know what's going on, you've looked around and you can tell, hey, I really see other people not being able to contribute right now, so it would be great if you would lean back just a little bit on sharing that much. We want to hear from you. We also want to hear from everybody else. And that's it. I hope this is helpful for you. This is a common thing in groups to have somebody who talks a lot. And so as you work through that, I hope this is helpful. Feel free to contact me if you have more questions. Thanks. Bye.